Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. For those that are returning, welcome back. My name is Carol Ndori for those that don't know me, and thank you so much for tuning in on this video. First of all, I just want to wish you guys a happy new year, happy 2023. This is going to be an incredible, great year for both you and I. Let's enter it with so much gratitude, so much hope in us, and just so much expectation. But as cliche as it sounds, and I know that a lot of people say this, but it's not going to be a new year, new you if you're not willing to put in the work. If you do the same thing over and over again, how do you expect different results? So I think that's just a little challenge out there to you guys who's watching this video right now and is hoping and currently doing their vision boards and things like that, to say yes, of course, there's so much in store, there's so much greatness in store for us for this year, but we also need to grow with the years, put in a little bit more work, do the inner work, go out there, do the things that I've always wanted to do. But otherwise, I am so grateful myself that I've been given yet another opportunity to see another year, and I think it's going to be great. It's coming with great things. I can only be hopeful and thankful to God for this opportunity. But otherwise, happy new year, guys. I hope you guys are doing well, you and your families. It's going to be great. So today I'm excited to shoot a video that I have been meaning to do for quite a while now, and it has actually been requested by a couple of people on my social media. They've asked me to shoot a video like this one, so I'm finally doing it, and I suspect it's gonna take a little while. So if you can, and if you're interested, go grab yourself a cup of something to drink, as I have a cup of coffee myself. Sit down, be comfortable, and let's talk everything to do with my studying journey towards being a chartered accountant. So yeah, let's get right into it. So in the beginning, so a couple of weeks ago, I posted on my Instagram stories to say that if you have any questions regarding my studies and anything to do with me studying towards the ACA qualification, just ask me a question. And I did get a couple of questions. I actually wanted to do it again, like do that Q&A again for those who might have missed the post, but unfortunately I'm off social media for a while, and I didn't want to have to go back just for that particular Q&A. So I decided, let me go with what I have here. I think I have about 10 questions, but the thing is, some of them are a repetition of the others, so I don't think they're really 10, but I will sort of add more with other things that I've been wanting to shoot on this particular video. So yeah, let's get started. Firstly, let's just do a background information for those that don't follow, for those that don't know me from social media. I have been studying towards being a chartered accountant for the past 4 years. I think I started in 2018, and I chose the BICA, but internationally you would know it as the ACA qualification from the ICAEW organization. So ACA standing for Associate Chartered Accountant. So I think if you are living outside Botswana, then it would make more sense for me to put it that way. But if you're living in Botswana, probably you've had people say they're studying BICA and you're wondering what it is. Internationally, it is known as the ACA qualification. So what happened is Botswana has partnered with the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales, that's the ICAEW, so that they have their own chartered accountancy profession here in Botswana. In South Africa, I know you have CICA, the CASA destination qualification. Here in Botswana, we call it the BICA qualification, and it's in partnership with the ICAEW. But in the end, we are both called, chartered accountants. The other one is just Botswana based, the other one is South African based. But I know that there is this misconception where people feel like this qualification, the BICA one, is just recognized here in Botswana, which is a misinformation. Like I mentioned, that Botswana partnered with ICAEW. So if you do this qualification, then the destination that you acquire is the ACA, which is based in the ICAEW, and you can work anywhere with the ACA qualification, just like with the ACPA one from ACCA and the CGMA one from CIMA. So yeah, that's what I wanted to put it all across right at the very beginning, to say that's what I've been studying towards for the past 4 years, and I've completed it last year, which was like a very big win for me, because for those that know, this course does not come easy. It's one of the most complicated, complex courses in the world. So for you to finally get your CASA or your ACA or your CIMA or your ACCA is definitely something you cannot take lightly. So yeah, a lot of hard work and dedication was put into it, a lot of hours, a lot of sacrifice, but after 4 years of fighting, after 4 years of being, resilient, and because one thing for sure, you want to give up so many times you want to give up. So I put in so much dedication, so much resilience, and at the end I did complete the course. All right, so yeah, you have been asking me questions in terms of how have I done it, also considering the fact that for you to do this particular course, you have to be working at the same time. For you to be called a fully qualified chartered accountant, you should have passed all the exams, and then also you should have accumulated a certain number of days or hours in experience. So for those that are in South Africa, you know that the SAS, the CASA ones, they usually say they're doing articles, which is basically working for a firm as they are studying, so that by the time they graduate, they have both been studying and working at the same time. For us here in Botswana, we say it's the practical working experience, PWE. So at the same time as you're studying, you're supposed to be working, like it's a must, you're supposed to be working. But again, we'll talk about that later. I just wanted to sort of put it across so that you guys know what I'm talking about and what part of the chartered accountancy profession I was doing, because it's so broad. There's CIMA, there's ACA, there's so much. So I wanted to just say, in my case, I was doing BICA, but of course I will touch a little bit on other things. Okay, BICA stroke ICAEW. I will touch on other things like CIMA and ACCA, just so that, because I see here some of the questions are referenced into those two particular courses. So let's get right into it. Let's start with your questions. So Cam's question is, hi gorgeous mama, did you do BICA through self-study or were you attending classes? And my answer is sort of, okay, I'll just say classes, but it's not as simple as that. Like, it's not straightforward. For the first 2 years, I think 2018, 2019, I was doing straight classes. But for the kind of course this is, obviously the classes are evening classes, because you're required to be working at the same time, right? So it was evening classes running from 5:30 to 8:30, Monday to Thursday. So I think that was the first 2 years, 2018, 2019. And then in 2020, because of COVID, I was still doing classes every day, Monday to Thursday, 5:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m., but it was online via Teams, right? So I would say yes, I was attending classes, but I think this question, I don't know, because it depends on the kind of person you are and how you study. But I usually stress this thing, classes are very important, but now for me, they contributed about 20% of the overall hard work that I had to put in. The 80% is yours, the 20% is what you get from the classes, because the way the syllabuses are so broad, you find that in the 3 hours you will not be able to cover as much as when you put in the work alone at home or with any other time. So I would say I was doing classes, but I don't want you to misunderstand and think if you're doing self-study you will not be able to pass. You will, because even though I was doing classes, most of the work was the work that I put in outside of class. So I was doing classes. Let me just answer the question and say that. So the second question is coming from Tandy_07. She says, can you please explain what BICA is? And then, do you have to do ACA or CIMA to be CA? So, I don't even know where to start, because it's like, there's a lot that you can say about all these three qualifications. But let me just try, okay? So as I mentioned earlier, the BICA qualification, BICA stands for Botswana Institute of Chartered Accountants, right? So there's BICA, the organization, which is the organization that sort of manages, or it's the council that manages or oversees the accounting profession in Botswana. In South Africa, it's the CIMA, right? So this institute has its own qualification, which they called the BICA qualification. And this BICA qualification, they have partnered with the ICAW because they wanted an internationally recognized chartered accountancy profession, not just the one that's recognized here in Botswana. So actually the exams that we take are based in the UK, coming in from the ICAEW qualification. That's why when I say after you qualify from BICA, your designation or the membership that you get is that of the ICAEW and that of the, I think it's called the business BFPK, business finance profession, something like that, both based in the ICAEW. Now, for you to be an accountant here in Botswana, you must also be registered with the BICA, the Botswana Institute of Chartered Accountants Council. That's where we pay our subscriptions and memberships for, right? So yes, that's BICA. Now, when you qualify or when you graduate from the BICA qualifications / ICAEW, you take the designation after your name, which is written as ACA, which I'm sure you've seen from other people on LinkedIn and stuff like that. So the ACA stands for Associate Chartered Accountant, right? Cool. Then as for the ACCA, standing for Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, this one is also one. It's also one of the internationally recognized bodies that are governing accountants. It also, produces chartered accountants, and these ones, they hold the designation, ACPA. Well, depending if you're an associate or if you're a fellow. I think you only become a fellow chartered accountant after, I don't know if it's 5 years, no, I think 10 years of experience. After you've been working for 10 years and you have been a member of ACCA, then you will qualify to get the FCPA designation, the fellow certified professional accountant. But if you're an associate, then you get the ACPA designation, which is Associate Certified Professional Accountant, right? Then CIMA, coming to CIMA, CIMA is also an internationally recognized chartered accountancy profession as well, just like ICAEW and ACCA. And this one stands for Chartered Institute of Management Accountants. And when you graduate or you qualify from this profession, you get the designation CGMA. This one is for Chartered Global Management Accountants, right? So all these three are global bodies for professional chartered accountants. In a way, I would say, in a way, in the end, if you are doing these three courses, the end goal, the end result is that you become a chartered accountant. So I would say they are the same in the sense that the goal is the same, the end result is the same. You are a CA. It's just that they're different in the way they do things and the way you study or in the levels. I know CIMA has 4 levels. The strategic, operational, etc. ACA has its own foundation, operational, something like that. And then the ACA also has its own certificate, professional and advanced levels. So you find that in a way these papers somehow are different in one form or the other, but in the end you will sort of learn the same things, I want to believe, but of course in a different way. Just briefly, because I honestly can't go too much into these ones, I feel like for you to come to a decision where you have to decide which one to go for, you should really do your own research and sit down and research what ACCA stands for, what it does, what the accountants go for after they graduate in terms of the career path. I think because that's one of the most important things before you can even come to deciding what of these three to do. You have to first ask yourself, what am I trying to achieve out of my profession? Who am I trying to become? And what am I trying to build here? Am I trying to be a management accountant? Am I trying to be a financial accountant? What are you trying to do? Do you want to be a CEO one day? And if that's the case, you want to be a CEO one day who's also a chartered accountant, then you would go maybe the route of CIMA. Not necessarily that if you're an ACCA or ACA you can, but I'm just saying that they're sort of different in those simple and little things on the side. So when I was doing a little bit of research, I found that ACCA focuses more on the skills and principles of accounting. This is where you will learn your financial reporting standards and like the technical concepts, So you find that people who finish ACCA mostly go for the roles like financial accountant, go for the roles in auditing or tax advisory services, like the technical roles. But you can get into managerial roles, of course, because like I said, at the end of the day, you are a chartered accountant. And then as for CIMA, it's more on the strategic and business leadership side of things. This is it will sort of focus on, things like costing and strategy and things like that. And then ACCA will focus on reporting. So that's why people who did ACCA, most of them, they like going the audit route before they get to the managerial route of accounting. I could be wrong, okay, because I'm not well researched on all of these bodies. I could be wrong, but in my little research that I did, I think this is what I picked. And then in the ACA, which is what I did, it's sort of a little bit of a combination of both, in my opinion, actually. But it's much more towards the ACCA in the sense that it's both technical, it's technical and principles based when it comes to, okay, financial reporting standards. These are things that we're going to talk about. Audit standards, these are things that we're going to talk about, but it has a bit of management and strategy inside, because the one thing that I like about ICAW is that they keep saying that they're trying to build the accountant in business, not just accountant in the sense that, okay, come present the numbers. They want people who are also business people at the same time, in the sense that they can look through the numbers, interpret them, report them to the board of directors, and also come up with, strategy wise, come up with ways to say, okay, so this is your profit, this is your revenue, but in terms of strategy, maybe we should go this route in order to maximize our profits, things like that, So that's one thing that I love about the ACA qualification. I feel at the end of the day, you can become an entrepreneur, a great one, because then you are able to focus on your numbers and interpret them and see what they mean for you in terms of strategy, in terms of the route that the business should take. Or you can be working as a technical accountant in big corporates and organizations, even as a CFO. So I think the one thing that I wanted to stress is that I think all qualifications are actually going through that route to say, let's not be accountants who are just about numbers, because after all these, what can I call them? After the propaganda, should I say propaganda? What do they say? There's a word for it, but I forgot it. After those things that were Enron and so many other big corporates, they always end up they're collapsing or crashing, and then you find that the audit report is just clean. So now the world is going towards accountants who are not just about the numbers and saying, hey, you've made a profit there, 1 million, not able to explain no, but even though you made a profit there are things like provisions, and profit is not the same as cash flow. They're trying to sort of build accountants that are able to talk the language of business and not just numbers, because if we're honest, not everybody understands our language as accountants. We'll be sitting in a boardroom with a board of directors who are coming from different fields of study and different disciplines, and then if you're going to come here and talk about IFRS 9, they won't get it. So in a way, that's all these qualifications are saying that, of course, we want you to know the knowledge and apply it, but at the end of the day, you should be able to then link it to the business and make the numbers talk to the CEO, to the marketing manager, to the operations manager, to anyone else who's not in the finance field but wants to understand how the company is performing. All right? Cool. So I think I've answered what BICA is and what other bodies are and what they do, but I say go do your own research, read, ask people who have done different courses so that you know what the difference is, and then you can be in a better position to decide. The last bit of the question was asking if after you've done BICA, would you have to do ACCA or CIMA to be a CA? The answer is no, because you will be a CA after completing BICA. But again, it depends. What are you trying to get from your qualification or from your studies? Who are you trying to become? I know people who have done ACA, which is the BICA, and then they go on and do CIMA. I don't know if I know anyone who has done ACA and ACA, because in my opinion, they are sort of similar in their syllabus. The approach is different. The courses are in a way different in the levels, but in the end, I feel like the principle is the same. So I don't know anyone who has done, but I've seen people who have done ACA and then they go on to do CIMA. And these are only people who are in the lecturing or in the academic field, people who are lecturers. If you're a lecturer, if your goal is to be a lecturer, go Bozana Accountancy College, and you want to be able to lecture by CIMA or by ACCA, by ACA, then maybe it's up to you. If you really want, you can go both routes. That means you have 2 CA qualifications. In my opinion, It's not necessary. It's not necessary, but again, this is you and your career, so you get to decide. But I do know that once you have the other, you get a lot of exemptions for certain papers in the other. So maybe how the ACA, by the time you go CIMA, then they exempt you from a couple of papers that are similar to some papers that you've written this side. So maybe you may have 2 or 3 that you have to write and then you qualify on CIMA. I don't know, but again, go do your research. Okay. All right. Moving on to the other question from Miss Pearl. She's asking, why did you choose BCA, not ACC or CIMA? So the first thing why I chose BCA was opportunity, right? The opportunity presented itself. In 2018, I saw an advert that was saying that the Botswana government is sponsoring people who want to further their studies and do the BCA qualification, because obviously Botswana is in the quest to sort of increase the number of chartered accountants that are produced here in Botswana, and from the Botswana qualification. So when I saw that opportunity, I was like, at the time I wanted, it was in my plans to further my studies and to do the CA, but at the time I wanted to do CIMA, right? But I think at that time I didn't know the difference, you know. So, and I always thought, okay, no, CIMA is management accounting, so I'm going to be a manager once I do management accounting. I was obviously misinformed, so that's why I wanted to do CIMA. But after this opportunity, I thought, okay, no, I can actually get a sponsor and not have to pay for myself, so let me just do BCA. Then I went ahead and I registered and did BCA, and as we went on, actually it grew in me. I started loving it and I started seeing its benefits over CIMA. So I think I was happy with that choice at that time. So I would say it was not initially my choice, but I grew to love it. Immediately after I was in, I was like, this was the one for me. I don't think I would have done well with management accounting. So this was the one for me and I love it. And also, I think one of the things that made me want to do it is the challenge. I love a good challenge, and I know that, at the time, I think there were about, how many graduates from BCA? I don't even remember. Like, I think there were like a few graduates from BCA, and everybody was talking about how difficult this course is, and they're right. It is. So for me, it was like, oh, who are you, great mountain? I like a good challenge, okay? So I was like, let's see those things, and let's see what we can do. So I think that's one of the reasons that I chose it. I wanted something that would challenge me and say, and to say, you know, Carol, can't you be one of the graduates, the few graduates at BCA? And I think at the time, I think there were 10, if not 7, I don't remember. But yeah, that's why I chose BCA. All right, moving on to the other question. Coming from Pebe Sebele from Facebook. This one was saying, how did you manage to study BCA plus entrepreneurship and all your other commitments? Yo, now this one is tough. This one is tough. Because the question is like, how did you manage? And I think I wasn't managing. You know, I talk about balance most of the time in my speaking engagements. I say, I don't think there's that thing called balance. I think there is definitely sacrifice. For you to win at something must go. The other must go. You definitely have to sacrifice something. So I think the only thing that helped me was a lot of sacrifice. I sacrificed so many things. Sacrifice in the sense that some of the goals, some of the things that I wanted to do, I had to put aside and say, I can't do this right now as long as I'm studying, you know. So it came with a lot of sacrifice, and also came with a lot of dedication and hard work. Hard work meaning that I would leave work at 5, go rush to school at BAC, and I was working in Pakalani at that time. And you can imagine driving from Pakalani, you have 30 minutes to get to BAC. It's like from one end of the town, the city to the other, and you have 30 minutes. So I'd get there at 5:30, get in class from 5:30 to 8:30. 3 hours of class after working 8 hours. That is not easy. From there, after that, when you come back, because obviously when you're in class, it's not the same as when you are studying on your own. When you're in class, you're following the lecturer's guidance. But when you're studying, you're doing on your own, right? So obviously after class, you would want to put in a little bit of study work, or maybe revisit the concepts that were taught in class so that you see if you understand. So after you get home, obviously you'd get home around 9 p.m. then you have to cook and all of that, do sort of things like that, take a bath, whatever, spend time with family. From there, then you have to go sit down maybe 1.5 hours or 2 hours, put in some extra work. So it took a lot of time, a lot of work, a lot of dedication, a lot of sacrifice. And I think also one of the things that helped me is that I have grit, grit. I am not a quitter. So whatever I start, plus also one of my favorite verses, Philippians 1 verse 6, being certain of this, that who began a good work in me will bring it to completion. That's just me. So I think that's one of the things that was inspiring me to say, I'm going to finish this thing, no matter how difficult it is, no matter how many commitments I have right now. I know I had a lot on my plate. I had to be a full-time accountant at work, and also be a studying person, and also be a family woman, and also have businesses on the side. It was just too much, but I knew that I am not a quitter. I will endure the process and finish, and with God's grace I did. So I think the one thing that really helped me is having a positive mindset and a fighting spirit. For this one, you definitely need to be a fighter. You need to say, what am I trying to achieve? Where am I trying to go? And then see it through. Yeah. So that's it. And then the other question coming from 28 Chrissy 95. It says, would you advise someone to do Biko or ACC after completing AAT? My advice is do whatever you want to do. BSCA. How you go about it, it's up to you and what you're trying to achieve from your career. Biko is a great course, sure. ACA is a great course, sure. Do you end up becoming a chartered accountant? Yes. But what are you trying to achieve from your career will be the determining factor in terms of helping you decide. But I do know that usually people do say that they prefer ACCA because it's not as complex as Biko. Yeah, but why hate that, unlike Biko, where people don't finish, they end up quitting along the way, or they just take forever to finish in record time. There are other factors to consider before you can choose the two. I know that the other important factor that I usually advise people on is the issue of duration. With ACCA, you can finish, maybe if you have a degree already and you have a lot of exemptions, you can easily finish ACCA within a year or 2.5 years. But with Biko or ICAW, you would have to be going to school between 3 to 4 years, or even more if you don't finish on record time. The record time is 4 years, but if you don't pass your papers and you have to do a lot of research, then it will take longer. So if you're trying to get a quick qualification faster, then probably ACCA is your girl. But at the same time, I think the other thing to consider is the way you go about ending up having the qualification. ACCA does not have stringent rules in terms of the experience to obtain. As long as you know each other accountant who can sign off the hours for you to say you really have done the hours, that you have the experience, you're good to go. But with Biko, you should be working for a certain organization that's registered as an approved training employer within Biko. With Biko, I mean, if you work for that particular organization, and you have to obtain a minimum of 450 days worth of work experience for you to fully qualify as a chartered accountant. So I think these are things that you also need to be well knowledgeable about, and then they will help you in terms of deciding which one to go for. So yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna say on that one. And then the other question coming also still from 28 Chrissy 95, she says, also, is Biko membership really beneficial? I mean, with getting a job and probably better pay. So I would say the issue of beneficial is very subjective, so I'm not sure what to say, but what I will say is that the law actually requires you to be registered as a Biko member. I am sure you are aware of the new Accountants Act that was published last year, April, if I'm not mistaken, April 2022, if not after, I'm not sure when. Is it August? I'm not sure. But there's the new Accountants Act which forces every accountant in the country to be registered with Biko, be a member of Biko for you to practice. If you're practicing and you're not a member of Biko, you're not registered with Biko, you are doing a crime that is punishable by law, and I think the fine is 500,000 if I'm not mistaken, and 5 years imprisonment. Guys, why don't I know the contents of the act? Oh, I'm such a disappointment. But just know that you're on the wrong side of the law if you are an accountant, you're practicing or you're working and you're not registered with the Botswana Institute of Chartered Accountants. Okay, so let's not break the law. Let's register. Let's be accountants that are registered and are paying subscriptions, so that we better the qualification. Okay, so in terms of being beneficial, I would say in a way it is, because now the act is actually forcing employers to also take responsibility, to say if you're going to employ an accountant who's not registered with us, you are also breaking the law as an employer, as a company. So I'd say that it's beneficial in the sense that if you have the membership and the certificate of membership, then you have a better chance of being employed than someone who's not, because now it's like it's mandatory. Everyone who looks for a job, you are required to present a certificate of membership with Biko. And then in terms of pay, I have not heard that Biko sort of has a unlike the law society, which apparently has ranges of pay for an attorney who has certain so and so experience. I might be wrong, but I heard that they have sort of numbers that they give organizations to say, for our lawyers, please pay this much. I don't know that about Biko. So I think that's the one thing, the one problem that we're facing as accountants is that the pay the pay line is so blurry and so diverse. You would find an accountant earning 60k, someone of the same job and qualification and role would be earning 10k. So it's so different. Like, it depends from what company you're working for. So I think it's one thing that the organization really should look into, to say they should regulate pay for accountants here in Botswana, because as it is right now, it's just no, it's not working. So I wouldn't say it's beneficial in terms of pay. Right now, I'm not sure. And I'm talking Biko membership. I'm not talking these chartered accountancy profession membership like CIMA, ACA, ACA. Those ones, it's for sure beneficial in terms of pay, because the minute they see that you're a CA, then I'm sure it should reflect in your salary as well. D. Mokhadi's question says, hi, please give tips on how to balance work and study. And I think I've already answered this question on someone who said, how did I balance studies, entrepreneurship and other commitments? So I think I've already answered that one. But let me just say that I wanted to talk more on the technical side and the practical side of things to help those who are already on the journey or those that want to be on the journey. But I think this video is going to be too long if I do that part as well. So I may have to shoot another video, which now will be just, study tips and just practical tips to people who are in the profession or people who are studying towards the profession. Is that okay? So for now, let me just say this video will only be about the questions. All right, Zelda Tonyahai says, just want to say you are truly a gem. Shout out to my girl. Love you so much. Thank you so much, Z. You know that you're one of the girls that inspire me. So yeah. Sisi Setebi says, tips on how to start and finish in the 4 years. I think I did mention the issue of duration, to say that this qualification you should finish it within 4 years, and so many people finish after 4 years because of its complexity. So I have already mentioned that I made so many sacrifices. I had great support. My husband was very supportive, and longer leave as well, so that I jotted down these points so that I can have point of reference. I had longer leaves as well from work. I would make sure that my annual leave, I sort of don't take it anytime. I sort of wait until I need to take leave, then I can apply for study leave, which was I think 4 days at the time. Yeah, and then on top of that, I'll take a couple more days from my annual leave days, and then I'll have maybe 2 weeks of study leave. Study leave, guys, that's very, very important, because these are the weeks leading into the examination. You do not want to underestimate them. So I think on the practical side of things, the tips would be that, make a lot of sacrifices. If someone is asking you to do a 4-hour lunch, rather do an hour. Sacrifice that bit of money to coming back home and studying. If you wanted to do on a project, consider halting until you are able to have a lot of time in your own hands. And then have plenty support. You're gonna need it. Take leave, things like that. Okay, and then the other question coming from Miss Fifi M says, congratulations to you, dear. May the fruits of your labor manifest. Thank you so much, Miss Fifi. Thank you, and amen to that. And then the other question says, how have you juggled studies, work, and life? This is from Tumisang.Matilda. Tumisang, I think I've already answered this question on how I juggled both studies, work, and just life in general. Yeah, I think that's it on the questions. But like I said, I think I am going to shoot another video. Then this video will be just based on the course itself, the technical issues like the subjects and what to do and all of that, especially for those that are studying Biko or ACC or CIMA or anything like that, and they may find these helpful. So I think I'll do another one which has such practical tips and just other practical and technical issues that I may want to discuss. So I think let's end this video here with the questions, and I will shoot another one right after this one so that we are on the same track. Yeah, those are the questions I had, and I think let's call it a day for now. I will shoot another video as I mentioned earlier, but otherwise thank you so much for tuning in this video. And if you found it helpful and these are the kind of things that you'd like me to talk further on, please let me know in the comments section, or if you have any other questions that you want me to also attend to in my next video, please put it under the comment section. But otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for your support. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, and I will see you on my next one. Thank you.